This journey begins as most do, en route to destination. In my case, that just happens to be a 6-hour drive from LA to the Bay, across a scenic span of geographic scenery, including but not limited to mountains, deserts, hills, fields, and the occasional gas station, rest stop, convenience store for a quick breather on your travels. Seriously though, I only counted like 5 of these tops throughout the entire drive, so I would plan accordingly. After several hours, a couple snacks, and a lot of not recording to save battery, I have finally reached the city limits of San Francisco, marked by the towering suspension bridges on either side. Frequent visitors know that the narrow streets and inclined roads contribute to San Francisco being commonly referred to as a walking city. So after taking the liberty of securing my car at the hotel, and immediately booking it to the absolute godsend that is Ghirardelli Square, the Dubai Chocolate Sundae has certainly been in demand as of late. I attempted to take a trolley to the Nintendo store in the heart of the city. That was both fairly expensive and kind of crowded, so I decided, I've got my Fitbit on, I'm just gonna go ahead and walk it. The trek itself is not necessarily a walk in the park, that comes later, taking you up hills, down hills. It's honestly fairly scenic if you don't mind getting a little bit of cardio in. Under the occasional construction grates, and past these buildings to finally find a Nintendo store which should be somewhere. Oh. So after totally not missing the wondrous moment of walking in for the first time, I had finally made it into the Nintendo store of San Francisco. They were certainly well stocked. Plenty of shelves filled with these detailed mid-sized capsules exclusive to Nintendo stores around the world, and representing key IPs from the company itself. Moving down the stairs leads you to an additional selection of items and more life-size replicas of the aforementioned capsules, which are somehow even more detailed, with game-accurate accessories and so many textures. I highly recommend not sleeping on this handiwork, especially for cosplayers, artists, and people who really like chainmail textures. Okay, that last one might just be me, but anyway. The statues also serve as a way of dividing the store into various sections based on IP. This corner, for example, is designated for The Legend of Zelda, these beady-eyed Pikmin are looking at their little nook behind the stairs, etc, etc. In the back we have a couple themed controllers, a couple consoles to demo Nintendo games, and a handful of Amiibo in this back shelf. They also had a huge screen and a staff member commentating if you wanted to play competitive multiplayer rounds with a real-time audience, but I'm a bit too introverted for that. In any case, moving along this back wall gives some Pokemon plushies and additional merch. And while he doesn't have a statue for some reason, there's some Kirby represented as well. Absolutely a treasure trove if you live in the West Coast and don't want to travel all the way to New York or Japan to get some of these exclusive items. I personally couldn't see myself leaving empty-handed, so I ended up grabbing myself a Corviknight plushie from the Pokemon series for my collection. Alas, as much as I could have spent hours and hours and hours and hours browsing the shelves and mentally taking in every single piece of merchandise that there was, there's still plenty of things to do elsewhere. And for every minute that I spend in here, there is probably someone out there that would hit me with a blue shell to bypass the line if they could. So after a bit of sightseeing, taking in people playing games and hanging out in the community epicenter that is Union Square, it was a quick detour of barely a few blocks to our next destination, the ever-flowing district of San Francisco Chinatown. The best way to describe San Francisco Chinatown whenever I visit would have to be lived in, whether it be the revolving door of people going about their day, the decorative lanterns and architecture uniquely representative of their culture, various shops and convenience stores selling basic necessities and souvenir goods, and one of my absolute favorite motivations to swing by every time I'm in the area, some mouth-watering and frequently packed local restaurants with delicious items that I deserve because I know I'm going to happily walk it off later. How could you possibly look at that roasted goodness in that window and not be tempted to grab a bite or 20? In my case, only being here for a few days and knowing that my eyes are unfortunately bigger than my stomach, I somehow had enough restraint to be selective with my choices. So I might as well give a quick rundown of, quote, including but not limited to, some of what I might eat in a day, unquote. I ended up ordering chow mein, fried rice, and wonton soup from New Fortune Restaurant. Various pastries, I honestly hit a couple of those. And my absolute favorite, hands down, if you're gonna go somewhere, go here. Baobuns from Dim Sum Bistro. Packed fresh and ridiculously tasty. I honestly don't think I can recommend it enough, but I digress. With so many of the basics available from Chinatown alone, it's not surprising that much of the lively chatter all around comes from residents that call this district home. The area spans tens of blocks, some catering to incoming tourists, and others supporting and lifting up their sustained community. With only so much time in the day, I can honestly say that this footage only scratched the surface of the full atmosphere that San Francisco Chinatown has to offer. For today, though, it's back to my hotel for some R&R. Well, R&R and pizza. Even late into the night, you'll still find lively places like Marina's Pizza and Pasta, selling some of the most high-quality pizzas this side of Lombard Street. Time to eat, and now I can finally actually get some rest for the next day. Today started bright and early, trying my hand at the city's public transportation. As an early riser myself, I have to not take for granted the quiet moments like these where pretty much every seat is fair game. Give it a few hours and this same bus will be packed like sardines swimming under the Golden Gate Bridge. Speaking of which, I just believe I might have arrived. Just barely clocking the 9 a.m. opening time brings us to this quaint establishment, primarily specializing in coffee and sandwich making. Equator Roundhouse Cafe, bordering the entrance to the Golden Gate Bridge. The location itself is a small, yet very popular area, known primarily for its photogenic value and proximity to the Golden Gate Bridge. Barely 10 minutes in, and all the seats are pretty much already full. Not surprising that some would wait upwards of several hours just to snap a few pics. Like this flaky ube croissant, for example. Or this refreshing turkey sandwich coffee combo. It's the perfect treat to be able to start your morning off right. And be able to orient yourself before getting ready to actually walk the thing. The deck outside has a couple of factoids about the Golden Gate Bridge itself, as well as scale models that show the absolute ingenuity of suspension bridges, which is definitely a reason to not die. With that out of the way, and a decent amount of espresso in my system, it's finally time to manually walk one of the most iconic landmarks in the Bay Area. For variety's sake, there's actually a couple different ways to experience the Golden Gate Bridge. The first one, which is probably the easiest to plan out, is by car. There is a small toll involved, but it is a very scenic way to enter San Francisco, allowing you to take in the majestic sights without having to spend that much energy. There are also a couple boats off of Fisherman's Wharf that are willing to take you under the Golden Gate Bridge. And finally, if you have a few hours to spare and want to get a few additional steps in, there's always this method of walking the bridge. The walkways covering the huge length of this bridge is perfect to be able to take things at your own pace, but it's also undeniably a great place to get some additional cardio in, or in this case, some confident early morning drill sergeant training. I, for one, am just going to stick with the former.
Have fun running, okay?
Good for them. As you can see, it's not exactly the clearest day. In fact, an overcast day in San Francisco isn't even considered the rarest occurrence. Like, it's literally to the point that they've decided to name the ominous fog enveloping this bridge as Carl, and that's spelled with a K apparently. So thanks, K-Arl. I wasn't able to see the full view from end to end of the bridge through the naked eye because of you this time. But nevertheless, it's still really cool to see the two giant suspension pillars come into view as you walk closer. Even though you can't see what's fully all the way in front of you, it's really easy to follow the suspension cables to track your progress. If you have a fairly flexible schedule, you could probably just check the weather to find a clear day if you don't want to deal with this. Or you could be like one of my friends who is generally just very lucky and literally posted an extremely clear day in the middle of me editing this. No matter the weather, this mile-long bridge still feels larger than life regardless, holding the impressive title of World's Longest Suspension Bridge until 1964. Yeah, when you're starting to walk the bridge for a while and allow your mind to simply wander, some of the trivia bits for the starting platform can sometimes ruminate a bit. If not those, then perhaps maybe the thought of how cool the view would be if you were to swing across the giant red cables like in that one scene of Planet of the Apes. Then again, you could also be in the bike lane, which would elicit yet another feeling of the ocean breeze blowing through your hair as you make your way across. The possibilities are endless. Just don't forget to bring water and hydrate as you, one way or another, make your way from pillar to pillar, slowly making your way to the other end of the walkway. Once there are a couple of neat engravings and some statues you can take pictures of. and a walkway that gives you yet another vantage point of the Golden Gate Bridge. You can really say you can see it from every angle, which is pretty neat, all things considered. It's quite the photo spot, especially if you want that one interesting angle before ultimately making the return trek and claiming your I crossed the Golden Gate Bridge bragging rights. Which is exactly what I did. Got on the bus and headed over to Ghirardelli Square. Now, if you've been paying attention up to this point, you might be thinking, oh, what? You already went to Ghirardelli Square. Why are you at Ghirardelli Square again? In my defense, this Ghirardelli, the flagship location that literally makes the chocolate for pretty much every location in-house, has the type of quality where a return trip is simply non-negotiable. Everything from their chocolate, to their brownies, to their ice cream is on another level of sublime. To the point that you really can't go wrong with anything on the menu. It's hard to explain a really good flavor in words, which often makes Ghirardelli Square such an overrated location that it actually becomes underrated, simply because it's just common knowledge and people forget to talk about it. To rectify this, here's a breakdown of one of their most popular menu items, Land's End. Consisting of a fresh, full-sized brownie split in two and a cherry that's swiped way too fast, Land's End is a sundae boasting of 2 large scoops of vanilla ice cream that's layered with whipped cream and drizzled with caramel sauce, chocolate sauce, and handmade Ghirardelli fudge. All ingredients that are already dangerously delicious on their own, and when put together, the rich, soft texture of the brownie, accented by the slightest pinch of sea salt, pairs perfectly with the soft, creamy vanilla ice cream that you can't help but savor with each deliberate bite. With this particular dessert cam, I happen to be splitting 4 ways amongst family members, but it's also a great choice to split 2 ways with a partner, or if you're really feeling like treating yourself, completely solo. I've shamelessly done this and I do not regret it. Every part of the sundae is deliberately made in-house, especially the chocolate and the fudge. If you're dining in, you can even sometimes see the machines that churn the chocolate into the rich, creamy texture that you are inevitably sinking your teeth into, no matter which location you might be ordering from. Be warned that it's surprisingly filling, and while you may be tempted to get this over smaller, traditional sundaes, trust me that even a few bites can be enough. I say this as a warning. I've seen you leave perfectly good ice cream plates, and if you want to avoid the wrath of my judgmental stare of disappointment from you not finishing a good brownie ice cream combination, then you had better... Sorry about that, but I may have gotten a little bit in my feelings there. In any case, if sundaes aren't quite your speed or it's not your day, there's also a couple gift shops that allow you to get some of the chocolate individually. There are prepackaged sets of individual and assorted flavors, custom boxes of various sizes where you can freely pick flavors that you're most partial to, gift boxes, souvenir ornaments, and, my favorite, these wooden trolleys with the Ghirardelli logo and a few loose squares inside. They're perfect as quick treats for the moment, convenient snacks to reminisce on during the ride home, or even mementos to keep for yourself or gift to friends and family. I swear this isn't sponsored, I just love this place and the quality of their chocolate. With a bit of sugar restored to my veins, and just clocking at 11 a.m., it's time to hit one of the ever iconic landmarks of San Francisco, Fisherman's Wharf. Less than a block downhill from Ghirardelli Square, Fisherman's Wharf is a seaside street at the lowest point of the city. It's a solid tourist area with a close proximity to the water and docks, and a pierside view of iconic sites like the Golden Gate Bridge, which, as you might remember, I just walked, and Alcatraz Island. Most notably, Fisherman's Wharf sports a variety of shops and restaurants. There are dine-in, sit-down style venues like the ones I just passed by, takeout places from a combination of franchise and small businesses, bars and breweries if drinks and socialization is your kind of atmosphere, and even dessert places and souvenir shops. To be fair, I just came from Ghirardelli Square, so that's pretty much all I need as far as desserts are concerned, but hey, the option is there. The earlier you go, the less you'll have to deal with crowds, which is great if you want to get in a bit of sightseeing, snag a few keychains or other San Francisco gear to remember your trip by, and or grab a bite to eat from places with uniquely Bay Area cuisine. Just not here. Make no mistake, it's not that it's not a popular tourist attraction. On the contrary, it's legitimately incredibly overhyped. Is it a decent burger chain? Sure. But with so many local selections, just take what's in this vlog alone, why would you waste your calories on something so basic? In any case, I'm here with a specific destination in mind on my itinerary, but you could easily dedicate a full day exploring the specifics of what this area has to offer. For example, by walking by these docks, it's not hard to find people willing to take groups at a time on a scenic boat ride under the Golden Gate Bridge. Yep, I believe I mentioned this earlier, and this is the place where you can make that happen. If you have the liberty to book about a month in advance, you can also get tickets to walk on Alcatraz Island, the former prison turned preserve, which is filled with history and sights all on its own. I'm only walking about halfway down the street, so I'm not even going to reach the famous Pier 39, which sports even more outlets, shops, and attractions. But that's fine, because what I'm here for is this local seafood spot tucked in the middle of Fisherman's Wharf, the Crab Station. There's really nothing like their bread bowls. Fresh, filled to the brim, and deliciously creamy. It's just one of those dishes that screams San Francisco, and it's especially nourishing for someone that just went all the way across town within a couple hours. Because a hop, skip, and a bus ride later brings us to yet another iconic district in the San Francisco area. One of 3 of its kind in the US, the others being across the bay in San Jose, and in my home county of Los Angeles. This is the pavilion of San Francisco, Japantown. First things first, matcha. Just one of the many treats and trinket shops in the pavilion, I ordered this one from Matcha Cafe Maiko shortly after walking in. As a self-identified matcha connoisseur, I give this one points for being both refreshing and photogenic. Combine that with commemorative photo booths and gachapon machines, and you've got the perfect hangout spot for your Bay Area friend group or travel party. That's the kind of clientele I picked up on anyway, of course, because this place was especially lively. You're not want for variety here, so try a crepe if you want that tangible treat texture, or order at the udon and ramen shops if you want a substantial meal. There are even cafes if you want something sweet to drink. With those necessities covered, you're free to try your hand at some of the claw machines, browse the official and secondhand shops, or even just get in some additional steps while you're here. This is the biggest Japantown in the US, so there's plenty to explore and a lot to take in while you're here. After thoroughly exploring the interior, I was going to go check outside, but it was undergoing renovations. Looks like I'm gonna have to come back for that. After another round of resting up from the previous day's events, I started today with an early morning trip to a local coffee shop on Lombard Street, the Coffee Berry. They serve yummy matcha and coffee, with both iced brews and hot drinks, with cute latte art to help get the ball rolling for another day. And of course, me being me, that was exactly what I needed because once again, I was back on the bus to hit up another iconic San Francisco destination that I've been meaning to hit for a while now. And that destination is this block of houses commonly known as the Painted Ladies. In particular, this area is especially known for being photo-esque, with houses apparently inspired off Victorian architecture and often being contrasted with blue skies to be the subject of postcards and even some television series. Many people will often come here to snap a photo of the background alone, but I also came here with the express intent of visiting an art exhibition that just happened to be nearby. With an advanced online reservation, which was really just an RSVP form that you had to quickly fill out, the exhibit was essentially free, allowing me to physically enter one of the houses, while being able to see the full gallery on display. It's one thing to see the Painted Ladies themselves and the reputation that precedes it, but being able to see such whimsical art on display is like honey in tea. I don't think that's a real phrase, but it makes more sense than icing on the cake in this instance. But I digress. I don't feel like I need to spell it out too much, but as you can see, the artist for this exhibition, known by the alias of Finch, specialized primarily in taking these bear-shaped honey container templates and personalizing them with various themed designs and accessories over the years, putting them up individually around the Bay Area. It's a neat gimmick, I suppose. In any case, it's just one of those cute, limited time exhibits that you might want to take a look at if you're in the area. So after a bit of appreciating fine art, I decided to hit up the Richmond district in the more residential area of San Francisco to grab a quick bite to eat. Here, my first stop was this gem of a crepe shop, Genki Crepes and Mini Mart. While it does have a little bit of a convenience store vibe on the inside, they mainly specialize in a combination of sweet and savory crepes. And these are honestly some of the best crepes I've ever had. These things are freshly crafted and made to order. I mean, even if you look here at the window in the front of the shop, you can see them expertly heating the batter, adding the ingredients, and folding them together. For variety's sake, I ended up ordering the classic banana Nutella crepe, but what makes this place stand out to me is their chicken, green onion, cheese, and chili sauce crepe, which surprisingly works extremely well. The crepe itself comes with just the right amount of crisp, a texture that's actually more reminiscent of a crunch wrap, and complements the chicken and cheese so much better than you might expect. Not many people tend to mention this item in particular, but don't knock it until you try it. If you take it from me, it comes highly recommended. Just look at this deliciously gooey cheese, it's perfect. After that, I ended up swinging by this ramen shop, Ramen Komeko, before walking a few blocks down to the iconic Golden Gate Park. Another San Francisco iconic area, this place is chill, relaxed, and a place for people to hang out. You'll often find people biking, hiking, and getting their steps in, which, as a visitor, and especially as a resident I reckon, is an excellent alternative for a gym membership. And walking it is relatively free. It's a win-win. Photos really don't do it justice. I've tried, I assure you. The road ahead is strangely serene and is only enhanced by the beautiful greenery and foresty trails that just keep going the further you go. It's a stark contrast from the rolling buildings of city streets and even the majestic waters under the suspension bridges of the city limits. While I tend to be at home in both of those aforementioned environments, I can totally see how the change of pace could be comforting. So if you want a bit of time away from the trademark steep inclines and bustle of San Francisco city life, look no further than this multi-mile park clustered within the west side of the city. With so many trees lined up on the sides of the road, you may even get a chance to get off the beaten, or I guess paved path, and grass wander onto areas like this, where it's honestly hard to tell you're this close to one of the most urban epicenters of the Bay Area. It's the perfect place to take a step back and appreciate nice nature, or maybe you're the type to imagine yourself zipping around like a vampire that sparkles in the sunlight. I know what you are. In any case, the Golden Gate Park itself is quite impressively large. It's about 1,000 acres, give or take, so that's about 3.5 miles long and about half a mile wide. That said, if you can swing it for yourself, there is plenty of things to cover. Even some of the small things, like this whale statue that was just kind of put in the middle of the road. If you're feeling a bit winded from the walking, I did just mention how big of a place this is in general. Just want to take a slight break or have a specific destination on the map that you would probably like to go to, there is always the option of this free shuttle service that follows the main road. Finding the shuttle is pretty easy when it comes down to it. There are designated shuttle stops at different increments along the path, each marked by a standee that literally says shuttle stop. That seems pretty self-explanatory, right? The shuttles tend to come around every 15 minutes or so just sticking by those posts will eventually get you onto one. If you stay on long enough, the shuttle will eventually hit all of its designated stops and will ultimately just loop all the way back around to where you started. If you choose to go that route, it's a great way to get a quick view of everything, as opposed to exploring the entire map on your own. And you get little snippets of the whole park. From the flora and fauna, do people on bikes count as fauna, to the occasional performances that set up in various points throughout the park, to the architecture of a few of the large primary museums that you can also enter for a small fee. And of course, when something catches your eye, or if you feel you can walk the rest of the way on foot, you can always just ask the driver to drop you off, even if they haven't reached the regular drop point. It's definitely one of its best strengths. Which is exactly what I did here, getting off to take in this multi-part, 25-foot high, 100-foot long, giant sea serpent statue that honestly deserved the intentional drop-off. It's located in the area known as the JFK Promenade and is the perfect souvenir photo to take for the road. I hear that at night it even lights up, which I imagine adds just another layer to the majestic beauty of this piece. As I mentioned earlier, there are also these museums that can be accessed through the walkways that are just off of the main road. There's one directly behind me and one all the way up in the distance, if you're inclined to check that out. There are also these serene, maintained gated gardens, large outdoor stages, and various art pieces that are scattered around the park. All memories that you can take back with you as you return to your car or get on the bus, ultimately having to deal with some form of traffic one way or another, be it car, foot, or otherwise. Personally, it was a great way to end my last full day for this trip. Before I go though, I decided to support one last local business that I saw on the way to Fisherman's Wharf. First Cup Cafe on Van Ness. It's a great place to grab a quick bite with a tasty sandwich and a light coffee to down in the car before getting on the road and braving the thin streets and hills of San Francisco. Which honestly is pretty fun when you don't have to deal with the parking or the traffic. Alas, taking out the car means I'm checked out of the hotel, which means it's time to turn up the music for the drive home. I suppose it's farewell. Until next time.